When a neighbor's friendly gestures began to cross the fine line of propriety, he tried to brush aside his suspicions, blaming them on exhaustion and jealousy. But sometimes intuition knows more than the eyes are willing to see. What seemed like a trifle soon turned into a blow from which there would be no recovery. One misstep, one betrayal, and the life built on trust starts to crumble. And when the house reveals not only traces of infidelity, but something far more dangerous, it becomes clear there will be no way out without pain. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watch this video. I value every one of your comments. So, let's get started. When Megan and I moved into Maplewood Estates, I truly believed we were turning the page to a brighter chapter. The previous year had drained us. I had been logging endless overtime hours to save up for a down payment, while Megan juggled sporadic freelance assignments alongside her passion for painting. She had always dreamed of settling somewhere peaceful, a neighborhood where she could feel secure. I was determined to make that dream real, even if it meant sacrificing my own sense of ease. At first, everything seemed perfect: immaculately trimmed lawns, kids riding their bikes up and down the streets, neighbors smiling warmly as they tended flower beds. Had I known what was waiting for us, I never would have signed that mortgage agreement. It all seemed harmless at first. Derek, the man who lived next door on our right, was one of the first to welcome us. He wasn't easy to miss: tall, broad-shouldered, and carrying himself with the confident air of someone well aware of his good looks. "Welcome to the neighborhood," he said, stretching out a hand as we unloaded boxes. "If you ever need anything, tools, a quick fix, even just a cold beer, don't hesitate." Megan's face lit up in response. "Thank you. It's wonderful to meet someone so friendly right away. Isn't he great, Logan?" she said, tossing me a glance. I shook Derek's hand, forcing a tight smile. "Yeah, nice to meet you too." But something about him immediately put me on edge. Maybe it was the way his eyes lingered on Megan, or how his words felt just a little too polished, as if rehearsed. I tried to dismiss the feeling. Megan was happy, and I didn't want to taint her excitement with my suspicions. Still, Derek seemed to be everywhere. Almost every evening as I pulled into the driveway, I'd spot him chatting with Megan while she tended the flower beds. On weekends, he was always around, offering to fix little things: a squeaky gate, a flat tire on her bike, a leaking kitchen faucet. "He's just being nice," Megan said when I finally voiced my doubts. "A little too nice," I countered. "I don't trust him." She chuckled. "You're jealous. It's actually kind of sweet, but seriously, there's nothing going on. Derek's just being a good neighbor, Logan. Let it go." But things didn't improve. In fact, they got worse. Megan began spending more time with him. One night over dinner, she raved, "Derek's a lifesaver. He got the lawnmower working again." "Yeah, fantastic," I muttered, unable to mask the bitterness. Megan frowned. "You could at least be grateful. It's not like you have the time to fix these things yourself." Her words cut deeper than she realized, but I stayed quiet. Not long after, she began inviting Derek to stay for meals. I hated those dinners, sitting across the table, watching them share easy laughter and private jokes. When I brought it up again, she brushed me off. "Derek's fun, Logan. You don't have to be so serious all the time." The final straw came on a Saturday. I had planned a lunch date with Megan, but when I got home earlier than expected, I found Derek lounging comfortably on our couch, sipping a glass of iced tea. Megan beamed when she saw me. "Oh, hey!" Derek stopped by to show me some of his landscaping sketches. "He's really talented, don't you think?" "Megan, can we talk?" I asked, my voice tighter than I intended. Her smile faltered. "Right now?" "Logan, we're kind of in the middle of—" "Now," I said, cutting her off. I led her into the kitchen, keeping my tone low. "What is this? Why is he always here?" I demanded. Megan crossed her arms, defensive. You're blowing this out of proportion. He's just lending a hand. Why do you always assume the worst? Because he acts like he owns the place, I shot back. Her eyes flashed with anger. Maybe if you weren't buried in work all the time, I wouldn't have to lean on him so much. I stood there, stunned. Lean on him for what, Megan? Fixing a few things or something more? She said nothing, just spun around and left the kitchen. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind churned with 1,000 ugly possibilities. Was I losing my mind? Or was there really something happening right under my nose? The next morning, after Megan left to run errands, I crossed a line I never thought I would. I installed a discreet camera in the living room. The very act made me sick, but I needed answers. For days, I kept up the facade, kissing Megan goodbye in the mornings, making small talk over dinner, joking about the nosy neighbors. Meanwhile, the camera watched, silently recording. Each night, after Megan had fallen asleep, I would sneak out of bed and review the footage on my laptop. Most of it was mundane, Megan watching TV, scrolling through her phone, sketching absent-mindedly. For a while, I wondered if I had let jealousy distort my judgment, seeing threats that weren't really there. But then came Wednesday. I had to stay late at the office, but the camera was still running. When I later sifted through the recording, my worst suspicions were confirmed. Less than 10 minutes after I left, Derek showed up. At first, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. They sat on the couch, chatting casually. Megan laughed, her hand resting lightly on her knee. Then Derek leaned closer, lowering his voice. "You know," he said, "you're way too good for him." Megan tilted her head, puzzled. "What are you talking about?" "Logan doesn't appreciate you the way he should," Derek replied. "A woman like you deserves better, someone who puts her first." Megan let out a nervous laugh. "Derek, stop. You don't mean that." "I do," he insisted, reaching out to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. "I've wanted to tell you for weeks. I care about you, Megan. Probably more than I should." Frozen in front of the laptop, I watched her hesitate, the moment thick with unspoken tension. For a brief instant, I thought she might resist him, tell him to leave. Instead, she leaned in and kissed him. My chest constricted as I watched the scene unfold on the screen, stunned. It felt unreal. Their kiss dragged on, their hands roaming freely, punctuated by quiet, familiar laughter. Then, as if communicating without words, Derek stood and reached out his hand to Megan. She hesitated, glancing momentarily toward the front door, but then allowed him to lead her down the hall toward the bedroom. The camera captured only bits and pieces, flickering shadows along the walls, faint, muffled laughter, and the soft click of the bedroom door closing. I didn't need to see more to comprehend the betrayal happening mere steps from the place where I had once kissed her goodnight. They stayed in that room for almost an hour. When they finally returned, they acted as if nothing significant had happened. Megan perched on the edge of the couch, her hair slightly tousled, while Derek lounged against the armrest, wearing that same smug grin that now made my stomach churn. He bent toward her, kissing her again, slow, deliberate, claiming. She leaned into him, her fingers lightly tracing his chest. Straightening up, Derek smirked. "I should head out before your husband shows up," he murmured. Still catching her breath, Megan nodded, her cheeks flushed. "Yeah, you're right." Derek adjusted his jacket and moved toward the door, pausing. "See you tomorrow?" he asked in a low voice. "Yeah," she replied, her voice wavering. He cracked open the door, took a quick look outside, and vanished into the night. The damage had been done. I sat paralyzed in the dark, my hands trembling with rage. Every part of me wanted to storm into the bedroom and demand an explanation. I wanted to pound on Derek's door and make him pay for invading my life. But I stayed still, seething, trapped in my fury, replaying the footage again and again, searching for clues. For the precise moment, everything had unraveled. And then something unexpected caught my attention. Later that day, while I was still at work, the camera picked up something strange. Derek had come back, this time carrying a box. Megan was there too, watching as he hauled it down the hallway. She opened the closet door, stepping aside as Derek tucked the box deep behind a pile of coats. I watched the footage, confused. What was he stashing in my house? The next morning, I woke with a new resolve. The betrayal had wrecked me, but the footage had left me with more than heartbreak. It left me with questions, serious ones. What was inside that box that Derek needed to hide here? Megan moved around the kitchen, humming lightly as she prepared her coffee, acting as if everything was normal. I forced myself to mirror her calmness, masking the storm inside. "Working late tonight?" she asked casually as she sat across from me at the table. "No, I'll be home on time," I replied evenly. "What about you? Anything planned?" I asked, studying her face. She shrugged, sipping her coffee. "Just the usual errands." "Sounds good," I said with a nod, keeping my voice steady. Beneath the surface, I was boiling with rage and suspicion, but I couldn't let her see it. Not yet. When she finally grabbed her bag and leaned in to kiss me goodbye, I kept my expression neutral. "Have a good day," she said warmly. "You too," I replied, watching her drive away, my anger and determination simmering just below the calm facade. The moment her car disappeared from view, I rushed to the hallway closet. I couldn't wait any longer. I shoved aside coats and boxes, digging frantically until I found it. A plain cardboard box, sealed tight with layers of duct tape. My heart pounded as I stared at it. I grabbed a pair of scissors and sliced through the tape. The lid popped open, revealing what looked like a thief's treasure trove. Stacks of cash, neatly bundled with rubber bands, sat at the top. Underneath were glittering pieces of jewelry, gold chains, diamond rings, bracelets that caught the light, and below that, small electronics, watches, smartphones, even a gold-plated lighter. I sat back, stunned. This wasn't forgotten junk. This was stolen property. I was certain of it. My hands shook as I took in the sight, the reality of what I had uncovered sinking in. This wasn't just about Megan's betrayal anymore. This was a crime. And now, because of her, stolen goods were hidden in my house. I fought the urge to call her immediately and demand answers, but the part of me that had spent days gathering evidence held me back. If Megan was involved, she wouldn't admit it easily. I had to be smart, stay composed. I needed to tread carefully. My next move would be more important than ever. When Megan came home that evening, I acted as if everything was just as it should be. She leaned in and brushed my cheek with a kiss, following the same routine as always. "How was your day?" she asked lightly, kicking off her shoes at the door. "Busy," I answered evenly. "Yours?" She smiled as she walked toward the kitchen. "Pretty much the same. I grabbed a few things at the store, thought I'd make that chicken dish you like." I gave her a nod and forced a polite smile. "Sounds good." Outwardly, everything seemed calm. Inside, though, my mind was a storm. I had seen all I needed to see. Now it was time to make my move. The following day, during lunch, I met up with Ryan, an old friend from college who now worked in law enforcement. We found a quiet booth in a small diner, the noise around us masking our conversation. Ryan leaned across the table, voice low and serious. "Let me make sure I've got this straight. Your neighbor's been stashing stolen goods in your house, and your wife's been helping him?" I gave a grim nod. "I have proof." "There's a box hidden in my closet," I said. "And I've got video of him sneaking it inside." Ryan's face darkened, his brow furrowing. "Logan, this is bad. If the cops find that box and think you're involved—" "I know," I cut him off, voice firm. "That's why I need your help. I want to report it. Anonymously." Ryan hesitated. "You're sure? Megan and Derek? They can't find out it was you? Because once you start this, there's no going back." I didn't hesitate. "I'm sure. It has to stop." 2 days later, everything came crashing down. It was early evening. Megan and I sat side by side on the couch watching some sitcom. She looked relaxed, as if the last few weeks hadn't happened, as if she hadn't been sneaking around with Derek and hiding his stolen loot under our roof. Then, red and blue lights flashed through the curtains, sending a jolt through me. Megan stiffened, her laughter dying in her throat. "What's happening?" she whispered, panic creeping into her voice. Slowly, I got up and moved toward the window. From there, I could see the police converging on Derek's house. Megan rushed over and yanked the curtain aside. "What's going on?" she cried, pacing frantically, wringing her hands. I stayed still, arms folded, watching it all unfold. "Looks like your boyfriend's in trouble," I said coldly. She froze. Her wide, terrified eyes swung toward me. "What are you talking about?" she stammered. I faced her fully, my expression unreadable. "You know exactly what I mean, Megan." She turned pale, her mouth working, but no words coming. "Logan, Don't," I said sharply, making her flinch. "Don't lie to me again. I know everything. The box, the stolen property, you, Derek." Tears welled in her eyes as she shook her head in denial. "You called the cops, didn't you? You set him up." I lied with a calm that chilled even me. "I didn't have to. You invited this mess into our lives, Megan. You let him use you. You let him use me. What were you thinking?" She broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. "I didn't know what to do," she choked out. "He asked if he could hide something for a little while, and I thought—" "You thought what?" I interrupted, voice rising. "That I'd never notice? That I'd be too blind to figure it out? Or did you just not care?" "It wasn't like that," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "It wasn't supposed to end up like this." I stepped toward her, fists tightening at my sides. "Then tell me, Megan, what was it supposed to be? Because from where I'm standing, it looks a lot like betrayal." She turned away from me, shoulders trembling with sobs. "You don't understand," she whispered. "Then explain it to me," I demanded, my voice trembling with fury. "Help me understand why you'd throw away our marriage for him." For a long moment, she stayed silent. Then, in a whisper, she said, "Because he made me feel alive." The words hit me like a punch. "Alive?" I repeated, barely believing what I was hearing. "You destroyed years of trust, for what? Because Derek made you feel alive?" She wiped her face, hands shaking. "You were never around, Logan, always working. I was lonely." "Lonely?" I spat, my voice rising. "I was killing myself to give us a future, Megan. A life. And while I was doing that, you were in bed with the neighbor?" "It wasn't just intimacy," she sobbed. "I didn't just sleep with him. He made me feel something, a spark, something I hadn't felt in years." I clenched my jaw, staring at her. "So what?" I said, voice low and bitter. "Marriage gets tough and your answer is to cheat? To run to the first guy who gives you butterflies? It's not that simple," she cried. "You were never home, Logan. I needed someone. And Derek—" "Derek," I interrupted, practically spitting the name. "You mean the guy who used you just like he used our house? The guy sitting in a squad car right now, probably thinking up ways to save himself by throwing you under the bus?" She shook her head weakly. "He cared about me," she insisted in a trembling voice. I laughed bitterly. "Cared about you? That's what he told you? Let me guess. He promised you excitement, passion, a life without responsibility?" Her silence told me everything. I raked a hand through my hair and took a step back. "You know what, Megan? Maybe I wasn't perfect. Maybe I wasn't around enough. But none of that justifies what you did. None of it makes the betrayal, the lies, the disrespect even remotely okay. Not one damn bit." "I never meant to hurt you," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. I responded with a dry, bitter chuckle. "Never meant to hurt me? No, Megan. You never even thought about me. Not once. It was always about you." She crumpled onto the couch, covering her face with her hands. "I'm sorry," she repeated softly. "I never intended for things to get this far." "But they did," I said, my tone cutting and cold. "And now there's no way to undo any of it." The silence that enveloped us was dense and unbearable. We sat without speaking, the weight of her admission hanging between us like a toxic fog. Outside, the flashing police lights had disappeared, leaving behind only the faint glow of the streetlights and the wreckage of what little trust remained. "What do we do now?" she eventually whispered, so softly it was almost inaudible. I stared at her, the woman I once believed I couldn't live without, and felt nothing but a hollow mixture of rage and disdain. "What happens now?" I repeated, my voice calm, resolute. "Now I'm finished." Her head snapped up, eyes wide and panic-stricken, tears streaking her face. "Logan, please," she implored. I raised a hand to stop her. "Don't," I said sharply. "Save the apologies, the explanations, the false tears. You made your choice. Now it's my turn." I stood, grabbing my keys from the table without another glance at her. "I won't be spending the night here. Don't waste your time calling." She reached out toward me, desperate, but I stepped away from her touch. "Logan, we can fix this," she cried, her voice breaking. "Please don't give up on us." At the door, I turned back one last time, locking eyes with her pleading gaze. Mine were cold. "You already wrecked it, Megan. I'm just walking away from the ruins." Without waiting for a reply, I stepped outside, leaving her sobs to echo into the still night. In the days that followed, I filed for divorce. I submitted everything, the video of Megan and Derek, the evidence of the stolen goods, ensuring that I emerged from the wreckage clean. Megan wasn't so lucky. She walked away with nothing, no house, no car, and certainly not my forgiveness. As for Derek, the police tore apart his operation, and he ended up exactly where he deserved to be, behind bars. Megan disappeared soon after. No forwarding address, no trace. She faded into nothing more than a memory from a life I no longer cared to remember. I never asked where she had gone. Truthfully, I didn't care. She was someone else's problem now. After all the years we spent piecing together a life, I thought her absence might leave a void. Instead, I discovered something unexpected, a deep, unfamiliar sense of freedom. Freedom from the lies, the betrayals, and the hollow pretense of a marriage that should have ended long before it did. Justice had been served. For the first time in what felt like forever, I could finally exhale. No more lies, only peace. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.